It was supposed to be the day I gave my daughter away to the man of her choice. Instead, what I saw was a photograph of my own face. It was beautifully framed, hung prominently at the entrance of the wedding reception hall, with a piercing golden calligraphy sign. O entry, per the bride's request. A thin drizzle washed over the streets of Upper East Side Manhattan that morning. A chilling fog rolled in from the river, blanketing the majestic The Sterling Grand Hotel with its contemporary colonial-style architecture. I, Richard Miller, 61, stood before the grand staircase leading to the ballroom, wearing a dark blue suit I'd ironed since dawn. My black dress pants and leather shoes, slightly scuffed on the side, were less than perfect. My hair was neatly combed, my face tense, but my heart was full of hope. In my left hand, I gripped a small box containing a silver locket, an heirloom from my late wife. A locket I was meant to hand directly to Cindy on her happy day. The soft sound of a string quartet drifted from the reception hall. The MC began to announce something in a cheerful voice. Guests arrived, dressed formally, carrying gift bags and small envelope. I took a step up. One stair, then two. My heart pounded. This was the day I had waited for. The day Cindy Miller, my only child, would marry. Then my steps halted. Standing right by the ballroom entrance was a large, sturdy, and conspicuously placed easel displaying my photo. A formal, glossy black and white print, taken God knows where, perhaps from an old driver's license, maybe a forgotten social media account. Beneath the photo was a neat, gold-framed inscription. This guest is not permitted to enter. Thank you for your understanding. I froze as if struck by lightning on a sunny day. My eyes read the sign over and over, hoping for a mistake, hoping it wasn't my photo, hoping this was just a nightmare. But no, it was my face, clearly and brightly displayed like a wanted man. Several arriving guests glanced at the sign, then at me. Their eyes were filled with pity. Some looked down awkwardly, others whispered quietly to their partners. I caught snippets of their words. What a shame, isn't that the bride's father? Why would they do that? My chest tightened, my breath caught, and the hand holding the small gift box began to tremble. I tried to step forward, to force my feet to move. But a hotel security officer approached me. Mr. Barnes was the name on his badge. His face was full of regret. I'm so sorry, Mr. Miller, he said softly, almost a whisper. I'm just following orders from the family. We were instructed to be firm. I stared at him. My mouth was dry. My daughter requested this. Mr. Barnes didn't answer. He just looked down like someone forced to do something they desperately didn't want to do. I glanced around. More guests kept arriving. They walked past me, giving me a wide berth as if I carried a disease. Some gave me a quick, sorrowful look. Others pretended not to see me. But everyone knew. Everyone understood. I was being rejected. I was being turned away. By my own flesh and blood. I took a long, deep breath, trying to hold back the tears welling to my eyes. No, I can't cry here. I can't lose my dignity in front of all these people. I was too old for that. Slowly, I knelt and placed the small gift box beneath the large sign displaying my face. My fingers brushed the lid for a moment. Her mother's silver locket. The locket my wife wore on our wedding day 29 years ago. The locket that was meant to be a symbol of a father's blessing and prayers for his daughter. May you be happy, my girl, I whispered, barely audible. I stood up, straightening my back, smoothing my suit, and turned to walk back down the stairs with heavy steps. Each step felt like carrying a boulder on my shoulders. Behind me, I could still hear the sound of the string quartet and the laughter of the guests. The party was going on without me. I walked through the opulent hotel lobby. The marble floor gleamed, crystal chandeliers sparkled, and the fresh scent of lilies wafted from large vases. But all that luxury felt hollow, like decorations on a tomb. In the corner of the lobby, I saw Mr. Hal, an old friend of my late wife. We had worked on the same project decades ago. His eyes met mine from afar, full of guilt. He raised his hand slightly, as if to greet me, then quickly lowered it. I understood. He didn't know what to say. I also saw Mrs. Annis, Cindy's old kindergarten teacher, a kind woman who often praised how smart my daughter was. She turned her face away when her eyes met mine. Perhaps she couldn't bear to look, or was too embarrassed. I continued walking towards the exit. The rain began to fall harder. Drops of water soaked my shoulders, but I didn't care. I stood for a moment at the roadside, staring at the grand hotel behind me. Somewhere inside, Cindy was preparing for her ceremony without her father. In my mind, questions spun endlessly. What made her do this? What did Harris tell her to make her believe I was a threat? Was this all because of the money I had secretly loaned Harris? Was this the retribution for trying to protect her? I remember the times when Cindy was little. After her mother died of cancer 12 years ago, it was just the two of us. I was the one who combed her hair every morning before school. I was the one who taught her to ride a bike in the narrow yard of our rental house in Staten Island. I was the one who sat beside her as she cried, missing her mother. Cindy was my reason for living. A diligent, gentle, polite girl. She used to kiss my hand every morning before leaving for college. She used to ask for my opinion before making important decisions. We always ate dinner together, watching television in the small living room. Then Harris came and everything changed. I never remarried after my wife died. Never brought another woman home. I lived simply on my small pension and meager savings. I sacrificed everything for Cindy, for her future, for her happiness. And this was my reward. A photograph of my face hung at the entrance of my own child's wedding like a criminal, like someone unfit to attend. I clenched my fist, not out of anger, but out of pain. A deep, profound ache that couldn't be healed by anything. A guest walked out of the hotel, opening a large black umbrella. He glanced at me briefly, then mumbled softly to the person beside him. He said there was an internal family dispute. I heard it clearly, and it made my chest tighten even more. I didn't know that in just a few hours, the entire celebration they had built would crumble. I didn't know that all of Harris's lies would be exposed before the eyes of hundreds of guests. And I, the father they cast out, would be the rightful harbinger of that destruction. Not with anger, not with violence, but with a truth I had been cultivating for weeks. I turned and walked towards the nearest subway station. The rain soaked my entire body, but I didn't run. I let the rainwater wash away all the pain, all the disappointment, all the unanswered questions. Because I knew, sooner or later, everything would be revealed. And when that time came, Cindy would know who was truly protecting her, who truly loved her, and who was really lying to her. 3 months before the day, 3 months before that humiliating day, my cell phone rang one evening. It was a video call from Cindy. I pressed the green button with a wide smile. It had been a while since we'd talked face to face, even if only through a screen. The screen opened, and what I saw was Cindy standing on the balcony of a luxurious Soho loft. The backdrop was a tapestry of glittering city lights. Soft music drifted from inside the room. "Dad, I'm engaged. We're getting married." My heart pounded. Joy, shock, confusion. I wasn't ready to hear those words. "Really, honey? Who is he?" Then, from behind Cindy, an unfamiliar man appeared. Tall, with slicked back hair, wearing a white shirt that looked expensive. Without saying hello, without even looking at me, he immediately kissed Cindy's cheek right in front of the camera, right in front of me, her father. I was silent. There was an uneasy feeling in my chest. But I tried to ignore it. Maybe I was too sensitive. Maybe times had changed. "Dad, meet Max Harrison," Cindy said, her eyes sparkling. She looked happy, truly happy. Max finally looked at the screen, smiling broadly. "Mr. Miller, I promise I'll take care of Cindy like a princess, maybe even more." His voice was sweet, too sweet, like a salesman pitching a product. "Max is a businessman, Dad. He has a tech company. His office is in Silicon Alley. Cindy added quickly as if wanting to convince me. I scrutinized Max more closely. His jacket was a little too fitted, like it was borrowed or recently rented. His shoes looked shiny, but there was something off about their texture. Fake, perhaps. And the watch on his wrist? I knew that model. A knockoff smartwatch sold on online marketplaces. What field are you in, Max? I asked, trying to sound polite. Fintech, sir. We help small businesses get capital through a digital system. It's growing quite well, he replied confidently. Too confidently for someone speaking to his future father-in-law for the first time. I nodded slowly. How long have you two known each other? Cindy quickly answered before Max could open his mouth. Only 5 months, right? But Max is different. He understands me inside and out. 5 months. And he was already sure he wanted to marry her. I wanted to say a lot of things, to ask her to rethink, but I saw her eyes. Eyes that shone with love, or perhaps were just blind. After the call ended, I sat deep in thought in my living room. There was a bad feeling nagging at me, but I tried to push it away. Maybe I was just overly worried. Maybe I wasn't ready to let Cindy go. Though from that moment on, everything changed. Cindy called less and less often. When she did call, our conversations were short, formal, like talking to a stranger. Her tone was different. Cold, as if she had built an invisible wall between us. Whenever I asked, when can I meet Max in person, honey? The answer was always the same. He's still busy, Dad. Later when he has time. That time never came. I heard from Aunt Jenny, my late wife's sister-in-law, that Cindy had quit her job at the consulting firm. She said she wants to focus on helping Max manage his business from home, Aunt Jenny remarked with a worried tone. I tried to call Cindy, but she rarely replied. It was strange. I also heard other, more worrying news. Cindy had blocked some of her old friends on messaging app. Even Arnie, her cousin, who used to be very close to her, was removed from social media. One day, Arnie called me. His voice was agitated. Uncle Richard, I tried to warn Cindy about Max. I saw his name on an online fraud complaint forum about a digital investment scam. But Cindy got angry, said I was jealous of her happiness. Then she blocked me. I listened, my chest tight. Are you sure it's the same person? The photo is almost identical, Uncle. The name is the same too. I just can't confirm it because the account was deleted. But this is dangerous, Uncle. That night, I tried to call Cindy. She didn't pick up. I sent a long message expressing my concerns, asking her to be careful. Her reply was brief. Dad, you worry too much. I'm fine. Then something else made me even more suspicious. There was no formal engagement ceremony. No meeting between the two families. Just a small party at the loft, to which I wasn't even invited. Aunt Jenny, who attended, said the event felt odd. There were only a few people, Richard. Max's friends who I didn't recognize. It felt rushed, you know? I tried to find out more about Max. I asked around, but no one knew much about him. His family never appeared. His friends were all strangers. One afternoon, I idly opened a social media platform. Max had posted a photo of himself, having dinner at a fancy restaurant, holding a wine glass with an expensive watch on his wrist. Another photo showed him in a luxury car with the caption, "Success finds its way." Yet, only a few weeks earlier, he had told Cindy he was saving up for the wedding. I took screenshots of all the photos. I didn't know why, but I kept them as evidence. Though evidence of what, I wasn't sure. What made me most uneasy was the way Cindy spoke when we had another video call. Whenever I asked her a question about Max, she always glanced away first, as if seeking approval from someone off camera. Only then would she answer, like a puppet being controlled. Sweetheart, when can I come to your loft? I miss you. She paused. Her eyes darted to the right, and then she answered, Another time, Dad. I'm really busy. I wasn't stupid. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what to do. Cindy was an adult. She had her own decisions, and I was just an old man living alone in a 2-story rental house in Staten Island. The trap. 2 weeks before the wedding, my phone rang. An unknown number. I answered. Mr. Miller, this is Max. His voice on the other end. I apologize for the intrusion. There's something important I can't tell Cindy. Can we meet? My heart leaped. About what, Max? About our wedding. It's an emergency. Please, sir, I beg you. His voice sounded anxious. Or maybe he was just a good actor. When and where? Tomorrow afternoon in Midtown. I'll text you the address. I hung up with mixed feelings. Something was wrong. I could feel it. But I had to know what was really happening. The next day, I took the train into Manhattan. I got off at Grand Central and took a cab to Midtown. The cafe Max chose was a luxurious spot on a building rooftop. The city skyline stretched out before us. The evening sky was beginning to cloud over. I arrived first and ordered a hot tea, sitting in a corner near the window. My hands were sweating cold. 10 minutes later, Max arrived. A neat navy blue suit, slicked hair, a friendly smile. But I noticed his shoes were wet and had scuff marks on the back, as if he had just come from a dirty place or had been running in a hurry. Mr. Miller, thank you for coming, he said, extending his hand. I shook it. His grip was weak, not firm. We sat down. Max ordered coffee and slowly stirred his cup. He began to speak in a low, serious tone. Sir, I apologize for troubling you to come all the way here. But this is about Cindy's future. Our future. I waited for him to continue. Cindy is an amazing woman, sir. Smart, kind, perfect. But she's too much of a perfectionist. Sometimes she stresses herself out over small things. And her father, no offense, sir, is a little overprotective. I frowned. What do you mean, Max? He offered a thin smile. I just want to make sure our wedding goes smoothly, without any burden or outside pressure. That's why I wanted to speak to you directly, man to man. I started to dislike the direction of this conversation. So what do you want, Max? He took a deep breath, pulled a brown envelope from his briefcase and placed it on the table. Mr. Miller, please don't misunderstand. I'm not asking for money. I'm asking for trust. And at that moment, I knew. I knew he was going to ask for money, and I knew this was a deliberate trap. Max slowly opened the brown envelope, pulling out a stack of papers. He placed them in front of me with a practiced movement, as if he had done this many times. Mr. Miller, this is about the wedding funds. I've actually prepared everything, but I have a technical issue that is out of my control. I looked at the papers without touching them. What issue? He sighed like someone carrying a heavy burden. Most of my assets are in digital form. The total value is over $2 million. But they are currently frozen by the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, due to a routine audit. The process could take weeks. I knitted my brows. His explanation sounded complex and detailed, too detailed for something suspicious. Meanwhile, he continued, the venue provider, the makeup artist, the caterer, they all require full payment within a week at the latest. The total due is $680,000. That figure made my chest tighten. $680,000. That was almost my entire retirement savings. Max pushed the papers closer to me. These are my investment portfolio reports, sir. Everything is officially recorded. There are growth charts, metrics, and corporate stamps. I'm not just anyone. I picked up the papers, reading them one by one. They looked professional. Complicated graphs, confusing figures, official-looking company logos. But something was off. The paper was too clean, too neat, like it had just been printed this morning. Why don't you just get a bank loan, Max? I asked quietly. Max quickly shook his head. I want to avoid that, sir. I want to maintain the sanctity of our marriage. Bank money has high interest. It doesn't align with my principles. He talked about principles, about sanctity, about usury, the right words to sting someone religious like me. Besides, he continued, a bank loan takes time. The wedding is right around the corner. Vendors are already calling. I don't want the event to be postponed and disappoint Cindy. I fell silent, thinking of Cindy, imagining her beaming face when she announced the wedding. I didn't want her to be disappointed. I didn't want her happy day ruined by a money problem. I promise I will pay everything back within 3 months, sir. As soon as my assets are liquidated, I'll return it immediately. I can even give you a little extra as a thank you if you want. He offered interest, profit, as if this were a business, not a family matter. Mr. Miller, he said, his voice almost a whisper, his eyes fixed on mine. Cindy doesn't know I came to you. Please don't tell her. It might stress her out. She's busy with preparations. I don't want to burden her with financial problems. And that was where he cornered me. He asked me to keep a secret from my own daughter, making me a part of his lie without me realizing it. I looked at his face, searching for any sign of deception, but he was slick. His face was full of false sincerity. His eyes were slightly red, as if holding back tears. I already see you as a father, sir. I have no one else. My parents passed away. I built everything alone from scratch, and now I'm just asking for help from my future father-in-law, from the father of the woman I deeply love. His words struck my weak spot. I remembered my late wife. I remembered our struggle to build a life from nothing. I remembered how hard life was without family support. I let out a long sigh. Max, this is not a small amount of money. I know, sir. That's why I came with complete documentation. I'm a responsible man. I won't disappoint you, especially not Cindy. The rain started to fall outside. The streaks of water washed the window glass. The Manhattan sky grew darker. I thought of Cindy, my only child. If her wedding fell apart because of money, she would be devastated. She would blame herself, or worse, she would blame me for not helping her. All right, I finally said, my voice hoarse, but I need collateral, a clear written agreement. Max's smile instantly widened. Of course, sir. I'll prepare everything complete with notary seals and a witness if you wish. He pulled out his phone and typed quickly. I'll bring the draft agreement to your house tomorrow. We can sign it in front of a notary if necessary. I nodded weakly. My chest felt heavy. A small voice in my head screamed that this was wrong. But I silenced that voice. I chose to believe because I wanted Cindy to be happy, the final betrayal. The next day, I went to my bank, First City Trust, Bojong branch, carrying my pension certificate and savings book. The money I had collected for years. Money for my old age, money for emergencies. The bank teller, a young woman named Ms. Hattie, served me kindly. You want to cash out your deposit, Mr. Miller? Yes, I want a cashier's check. She looked slightly shocked at the amount. $600,000. I nodded. For what purpose, if I may ask? My daughter's wedding, I replied. She smiled. Oh, congratulations, sir. You must be thrilled. I only offered a faint smile, not answering. 'Cause in my heart, I felt no joy. I felt like I was digging my own grave. The process took nearly 2 hours. I sat waiting, my hands clammy. Several times I almost canceled it. But every time I hesitated, I remembered Cindy's face, her smile, and I proceeded. Finally, the cashier's check was ready, number 3398. I stared at it for a long time, a small piece of paper worth nearly my entire life. That evening, Max came to my house. He wasn't alone. He brought another man he introduced as his friend, a witness for the signing. The man didn't say much, just nodded politely, then sat in the corner of the living room. Max handed me the agreement. I read it slowly. Everything was neatly written. The loan amount, the repayment period, full names, addresses, with a proper notary stamp on the top right corner. We signed. I handed the cashier's check to him with a trembling hand. Max took it with a look of relief. Too much relief. His eyes, which had been teary, suddenly turned cold again, like an actor finishing a scene. Thank you, Mr. Miller. You've saved our wedding. He shook my hand. This time his grip was firmer, more confident. After they left, I sat alone in the living room, staring at the copy of the agreement in my hand. There was an empty feeling in my chest, as if I had lost something precious. I tried calling Cindy, wanting to hear her voice, but she didn't pick up. I sent a message. Honey, I miss you. When can we meet? Her reply came hours later, brief. Busy, Dad. Later. From then on, our communication grew sparser. only occasional short texts. All about the wedding preparations she was coordinating with Max. I was never involved, as if I were just a spectator in my own daughter's life. One night, I opened social media. Max was posting a photo of a dinner at an exclusive restaurant, drinking expensive wine, wearing a watch worth thousands. Yet just a week ago, he'd told me he was cutting costs. I grew suspicious. I began documenting everything. Transaction dates, names of the vendors he mentioned, people involved in the wedding. I saved all our conversation proofs. Then I remembered an old friend who worked at the New York State Department of Financial Services, DFS, Mr. Joe. We were on a project together years ago. I called him one afternoon. "Joe, how are you? Long time no talk." "Richard, I'm good, buddy. What's up?" I told him about Max's company, Harrison Digital Ventures. I asked if they were currently undergoing any asset freezes or audits. Mr. Joe paused, then replied quietly, "Richard, that company is a shell. It's been reported twice. The address is just an empty office space in Queens. No business activity at all." The world seemed to stop spinning. I sank onto the couch. "Are you sure, Joe?" "Absolutely sure. In fact, the owner, Max Harrison, is on a watch list. There are several fraud reports under his name." I hung up, my hands shaking. My whole body went cold. I knew now. I'd been tricked, and my pension money was gone. I couldn't sleep that night. I sat in front of my old laptop with a cup of bitter tea, opening the New York County Court website, typing in Max Harrison. What I found made my blood run cold. 3 cases, 3 fraud reports. All the victims were women. Fiona Yates, Nancy Ray, Amber Pitt. The modus operandi was the same, approaching them through a romantic relationship, borrowing money for urgent reasons, then disappearing. Total losses, $5.9 million. I printed all the documents, storing them in a thick folder. My hands trembled as I organized each sheet. This wasn't just about my lost money. This was about my daughter being in danger. I had to stop this wedding. I had to save Cindy, but how? She wouldn't believe me. She was already too deeply influenced by Max. Then I remembered the cashier's check. It hadn't been cashed yet. It could still be stopped. I had very little time, but there was still a chance. I stared at a photo of my late wife on the wall as if she were whispering to me, "Save our daughter, Richard, whatever it takes." And I knew what I had to do. I had to become the villain in Cindy's eyes for a little while, so that one day she could see that what I was breaking was not her happiness, but the cage Max was building to trap her, the interruption. At 4:42 a.m., I sat in the living room with my phone in hand. The window was still dark. Only the porch light glowed faintly. I knew Cindy usually woke up early. This was the right time. When she was alone, before Max woke up and controlled every word that came out of her mouth. I dialed her name in my contacts. My heart hammered. The dial tone rang once, twice. Then her voice sounded, hoarse, freshly awake. "Dad, what is it so early?" I took a deep breath. "Honey, please listen for just a moment. This is important." A pause. I heard the rustle of a blanket. She was probably getting up, finding a quieter spot. "Max, he's not who you think he is, honey." Silence. Then her voice turned tense. "Dad, are you starting again?" "Listen to me, honey. I have proof. His name is listed in the court records. 3 fraud reports. 3 women were victims. Fiona Yates, Nancy Ray, Amber Pitt. The case number is T87 PDT Pen NY. Total loss is over $5.9 million. I spoke quickly, afraid she would hang up before I finished, but what I heard next shattered my heart. Cindy was crying, her breath hitching. "Dad, how can you slander my fiancé? This is not slander, honey. I checked everything. His company is a shell. The address is an empty office in Queens. He's a professional con artist." "No!" she screamed. Her voice trembled. "You just never liked Max from the start. You never accepted him. You don't want me to be happy." Her words were like knives. But I endured. I had to keep talking. "Cindy, listen to me. Max borrowed $680,000 from me 2 weeks ago. He said it was for the wedding vendors, but I already know it was all a lie. A man's voice was heard in the background. Max's voice, heavy with sleep but instantly sharp. Honey, who is that? Your dad again? I heard a scramble for the phone. Then Max's voice took over. His tone was polite, but there was a veiled threat. Mr. Miller, I know you're concerned, but please don't believe fake news on the internet. All those accusations were never proven in court. Those are just people who are jealous of my success. I clenched my fist. I have copies of the court judgments, Max. Don't lie anymore. You can be reported for defamation if you continue this, you know, he said coldly. I can press charges. I have lawyers. Go ahead, I replied calmly, and I also have evidence, including records from the FBI about your scamming methods, including a recording of our conversation when you borrowed the money from me. Silence. I knew he hadn't expected me to record our conversation. Then Cindy's voice returned. She had snatched the phone back, her voice full of anger and tears. Why are you doing this, Dad? I just want to be happy. Why do you hate Max so much? Why can't you support me just once? I closed my eyes. Her pained voice tore at my heart. But I had to be strong. Because I love you, honey. Love sometimes hurts when it has to expose the fake. I don't want to lose you to someone who only wants to use you. You're selfish, Dad. You're only thinking of yourself. You don't care about my feelings. Cindy. The line went dead. The busy signal droned on. I stared at the dark phone screen. My hands were shaking. I'd failed. I couldn't make her believe me. The downfall. That day, the wedding was set to proceed at the Sterling Grand. But I was not just sitting around. After blocking the cashier's check at the bank, successfully by the grace of God, I contacted Fiona Yates, the first victim. She, along with Nancy and Amber, agreed to come. We planned the exposure for the reception when the ballroom would be full. That evening, I stood across the street from the Sterling Grand Hotel. I didn't go inside, but I was close enough to see. The drizzle continued. The fog enveloped the river. Guests arrived in formal wear and friendly smiles. They had no idea what storm was about to hit. Inside the ballroom, crystal lights gleamed. White orchids and roses hung beautifully from the ceiling. Tables were neatly set with gold linens. The stage was grandly decorated. Everything looked perfect, too perfect for something built on a lie. I watched Cindy from afar. She wore an ivory gown with gold embroidery. Her face was beautiful but pale. Max stood beside her. Metallic gray suit, slicked hair, a broad, confident smile. He shook hands with guests, laughing warmly as if he were the king of his own domain. No one knew that kingdom would collapse in a matter of hours. I was not alone. In the parking lot corner, Fiona, Nancy, and Amber were waiting. They carried large envelopes full of documents. Their faces were tense but determined. Mr. Miller, we'll wait until the reception. When all the guests have gathered, Fiona whispered. I nodded. Let him enjoy the peak of his lie first. Then we'll bring it down. The string quartet started playing again. The MC opened the event. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we gather to witness the marriage of two loving souls, Cindy Miller and Max Harrison. Applause erupted. Guests smiled. Cameras flashed, capturing the moment. Everything was so beautiful on the surface. But then things began to change. I noticed several catering staff walking around with worried expressions. They whispered to each other. The event coordinator, a woman with a clipboard, looked frantic. She approached Max and whispered something. Max's face instantly changed. Pale, tense. He tried to smile at the guests, but his hand was shaking. He pulled the coordinator to a corner, speaking in a low, firm voice. From where I stood, I could guess what was happening. The vendors were demanding payment. They hadn't been paid, and the cashier's check Max relied on was blocked. Max rushed back to the stage. He whispered something to Cindy. Cindy looked at him, confused, then worried. Max pulled out his wallet, taking out several cards. He called over the catering manager, a man in a white uniform. I couldn't hear their conversation, but I could see. Max swiped the first card on the handheld payment machine. It beeped. The screen flashed red. Declined. He tried the second card. Declined. The third card. Declined. His face grew paler. Sweat beaded on his temples. He blamed the machine, asking to try again manually. But the catering manager shook his head firmly. "I'm sorry, sir. Without full payment, we cannot release the main course. This is according to the contract." His voice wasn't loud, but it was enough for several nearby guests to hear. They began to look around, whispering. The atmosphere changed. What had been festive grew awkward. The photographer stopped shooting, packing his camera. Max tried to stop him. The photographer only shook his head. "I've been waiting for payment for 2 weeks, sir. This is past the agreement." The MC, who had been loud earlier, now spoke with hesitation. "Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a short break, shall we? Just a moment." The music stopped abruptly. Awkward silence filled the room. Guests began to fidget. Some pulled out their phones, starting to record. Others whispered louder. The sacred atmosphere turned into an embarrassing spectacle. Cindy sat alone on the stage. Her face was ashen, her hands trembling around the bouquet. She looked at Max, who was scrambling everywhere, trying to fix the problem. But the harder he tried, the more chaotic everything became. Other vendors began to move. The decorator approached the coordinator, saying they would remove all the flowers if not paid tonight. The sound system company started shutting off speakers one by one. Some guests stood up, ready to leave. Others remained seated, their faces filled with curiosity, watching the drama unfold. Cindy finally stepped off the stage, walking sluggishly toward Max. "Max, what is this? Why are the vendors asking for payment now?" Max tried to stay calm, holding Cindy's shoulders. "Honey, it's just a technical error. Relax, it'll be sorted out in a minute." "What technical error? Everything was handled, right?" "Yes, it was. It's just the system acting up." Suddenly, Cindy remembered something. She pulled out her phone, opening her banking app. Her eyes widened. Her face changed from confusion to rage. "Max, what is this?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Why was there a large transfer from my account 2 weeks ago? 60,000 to an account in the name of Max Harrison." Max froze. His mouth opened, but no words came out. "I never authorized this transfer. This is a fake digital signature," Cindy's voice rose. Several guests turned their heads. "You took my money without permission." "Honey, that was for us, for our wedding. I lied, yes." Cindy pushed him away. "You told me you had money. You said your company was successful. You said everything was taken care of." Max tried to grab her hand, but Cindy slapped it away. Tears began to stream down her cheeks, ruining her perfect makeup. Mascara streaked black lines on her face. Cindy ran to the bridal room, rummaging through the jewelry box that Max was supposed to give her. Several boxes were empty. The gold that was supposed to be there was gone. She came out again, her face crimson. "You took my grandmother's gold too. The heirloom gold that was never supposed to be sold." Max started to lose control. "Cindy, listen to me first." "No, I won't listen anymore," she screamed. The entire room fell silent. All eyes were on them. "You're a liar. You lied to me from the start." Guests whispered louder. Some were openly recording video. Hashtags were starting to trend on social media. Max tried to defend himself. His voice rose in desperation. "This is all your father's fault. He canceled the funds. He sabotaged our wedding." Silence descended briefly. Then Cindy looked at him with an empty gaze. "My father? The one you mean?" "Yes, your father. He blocked the money, even though he promised to help. Now he wants to destroy us." Cindy was silent. Her mind worked fast. "My father gave you money?" Max realized he had just made a huge mistake, but it was too late. "You asked for money from my father? How much?" Max didn't answer. His face was pale. "How much, Max?" Cindy insisted. Answer me. $680,000, Max whispered, barely audible. The room seemed to lose air. Guests gasped. Some covered their mouths. Others shook their heads in disbelief. 680,000, Cindy repeated hoarsely. From my father, who lives in a rental house. From my father, who lives paycheck to paycheck. From the father I forbade from entering my own wedding. Her tears flowed freely, unstoppable. She fell to the floor. Her white gown was dirty, her hair coming undone. But she no longer cared. From the back of the crowd, a woman's voice rang out. Max Harrison! Everyone turned. Fiona Yates stepped in with Nancy and Amber. They carried large folders. I am Fiona Yates, a victim of Max Harrison's fraud in 2021. He tricked me out of $150,000 with the same scheme. Nancy stepped forward. I'm Nancy Ray, a victim in 2022, $270,000. Amber followed. I'm Amber Pitt, $380,000 last year. They placed the documents on the floor, court papers, proof of transfers, photos of Max with other victims. Everything piled up in front of Cindy. Max tried to flee, running towards the back door. But 2 hotel security officers blocked him. At the front door, 2 police officers walked in calmly but firmly. Max Harrison, you are under arrest for fraud and embezzlement. Max struggled, screaming, but the handcuffs were already on his wrists. He was dragged out, shouting incoherently, blaming everyone but himself. The grand ballroom was now like a battlefield. The beautiful flowers no longer looked beautiful. The music was dead. Guests began leaving one by one, their faces awkward. Cindy was still sitting on the floor, staring blankly ahead. Aunt Jenny hugged her, trying to comfort her, but Cindy was like a statue, unmoving, unspeaking. Only the tears flowed endlessly. In the midst of the departing crowd, Cindy pulled out her phone with a trembling hand, searching for a name in her contacts. The name she hadn't called in a long time. The name she had forbidden from her wedding. Dad. Her finger pressed the call button. And across the street, standing under a tree, I felt the vibration of my phone in my pocket. I saw Cindy's name on the screen. I closed my eyes for a moment, took a deep breath, and answered in the calmest voice possible. Honey, I'm here. Her voice broke on the other end like glass falling to the floor and shattering into pieces. I heard the uncontrollable sobs. Dad, please. It was all true. He admitted everything. I closed my eyes for a moment. My chest ached hearing my daughter's shattered voice. But I had to remain strong. I had to be her anchor now. Wait for me, honey. But this time, I'm not bringing apologies. I walked across the wet street, climbed the hotel stairs, passing the guests still lingering in the lobby with curious and pitying looks. I entered the chaotic ballroom. The flowers still hung beautifully, but there was no more warmth, only emptiness. Cindy sat on the floor near the stage. Her white gown was dirty, her makeup ruined, her hair loose. She hugged her knees, weeping silently. Aunt Jenny was still beside her, gently rubbing her back. I walked closer. My steps were slow, careful. Cindy looked up when she heard my shoes. Her eyes were red, swollen, full of remorse. Dad, she whispered hoarsely. I knelt before her. I didn't hug her immediately, only looked at her, letting her see the face of the father she had banished from her own wedding. Dad, forgive me, she said, sobbing. I was wrong. I was terribly wrong. I didn't listen to you. I chased you away. I stroked her head gently. Shh, it's enough. It's okay. I gave him your pension money, the money you saved for years, and I put your photo on the door, banning you from coming in. Her voice rose with heartbreaking regret. I'm a terrible daughter. I hugged her tightly, letting her cry on my chest, just like when she was little. When she fell off her bike, when she missed her mother, when the world was too heavy to carry alone. You're not a terrible daughter, I whispered softly. You're just a girl who got lost, and your father's here to bring you home. She cried harder, holding me tight as if afraid I would disappear again. I let her release all the hurt, all the regret, all the accumulated pain. We left that wrecked ballroom, leaving behind the empty stage and the flowers that no longer had anyone to celebrate. Home. The drive from Manhattan to Staten Island felt long. I drove my old rented car carefully. Cindy sat beside me, staring at the road with a blank gaze. Occasionally, she let out a long sigh. I didn't force her to talk. I knew she needed time. The rain poured heavily on the highway. The wipers moved quickly, clearing the glass of drops. The lights of other cars blinked in the dark night. The world kept turning, even though Cindy's world had just collapsed. Dad, she said suddenly, her voice low, almost swallowed by the roar of the rain. Why aren't you angry at me? I glanced briefly, then focused back on the road. Why would I be angry at you? You've suffered enough. But You were manipulated, honey, by someone skilled at deceiving women. You're not the first. And unfortunately, you probably won't be the last if men like him are allowed to roam free. Cindy was silent again, then asked softly, You were suspicious from the start, weren't you? Since the first time I saw him on the video call, something was off. The way he spoke, the way he moved, the way he touched you without respect for your father, those were all signs. Why didn't you just tell me? I sighed. I did, honey, many times. But you wouldn't listen. Love makes us blind, and Max knew exactly how to exploit that blindness. Cindy's tears flowed again. I was so stupid, Dad. Not stupid, too trusting. Too eager for happiness that you forgot to be cautious. We arrived at our rental house, close to midnight. A small 2-story house on a narrow street in Staten Island. The porch light was dim. Nothing was luxurious, but there was a warmth that money couldn't buy. I opened the door. Cindy entered with sluggish steps. She looked around the simple living room. The old sofa, the small television, the wooden table with peeling paint. Everything was still the same as the last time she was home a year ago, before she met Max, before everything changed. You go shower, change your clothes. I'll make you some hot tea. Cindy nodded, heading upstairs to her old room. The room I had never changed. The same sheets were on the bed. Her small dolls were still lined up on the shelf. The photo of the three of us, me, Cindy, and her late mother, was still on the wall. I went to the kitchen, boiled water, brewed sweet tea, and took some cookies from the jar. Cindy must not have eaten since noon. She came down wearing an old t-shirt and sweatpants, hair wet, face clean of makeup. She looked like the old Cindy, my innocent, gentle girl. We sat in the living room. Cindy slowly drank her tea. I sat across from her, not speaking, just keeping her company. Dad, she said after a long silence, can your money be recovered? By the grace of God, yes. I blocked the cashier's check before it could be cashed. Her face brightened slightly. Thank goodness. If it had been lost, I would never have forgiven myself. Let it go. The important thing is, you are safe. Money can be earned again. But if you were hurt any deeper, I would never forgive myself. Cindy looked at me, her eyes tearing up. Why are you so good to me? I hurt you. I chased you away from my wedding. I trusted a stranger over my own father. I smiled faintly. Because you are my daughter, my flesh and blood. Whatever you do, you are still my child. And a father will never stop protecting his child, even if it means being the bad guy in his daughter's eyes for a while. Cindy got up from her seat, walked toward me, and knelt down, kissing my hand as she used to when she was little before leaving for school. Forgive me, Dad. Forgive me. I lifted her face, wiping her tears. I forgave you from the start, honey. Even before you asked. We hugged tightly. Father and daughter, separated by a wall of lies, were now reunited. The silver locket weeks turned into months. Cindy slowly began to heal. She didn't instantly return to normal. There were days when she just sat silently in her room, staring out the window. There were nights when I heard her crying softly. But every day, little by little, the light returned to her eyes. One evening, the news on television showed a report about Max. His face appeared on the screen with the caption, "Wedding fraudster sentenced to 19 years in prison." Cindy looked at the screen with a flat expression. There was no anger, no sadness, just emptiness. "Quite a long time, huh?" she commented softly. 19 years is long enough for him to think about everything he did. I feel sorry for the other women who were his victims before me. That's why I brought them to the wedding that night, so they could get justice too, so Max would know he couldn't keep running from his mistakes. Cindy nodded, then turned off the television. I don't want to see his face again. I understood. Some wounds take a long time to heal. And Max's face was the deepest wound. One night I sat alone in the living room. Cindy was asleep upstairs. I opened the table drawer, taking out the silver locket, my late wife's heirloom. The locket I had placed under the sign that forbade my entry to Cindy's wedding. It was still intact, still beautiful. I gripped it tightly, feeling the cold metal in my palm. Tomorrow morning I will give this locket to Cindy, not as a wedding gift, but as a symbol that she was not alone, that she had a father who would always be there, that no matter what happened, this home would always be open to her. I looked at the photo of my late wife on the wall. Her face smiled gently in the simple wooden frame. We saved our daughter, I whispered softly. She's home. She's safe now. The next morning, as the sun began to rise, Cindy came down from her room. Her face was fresher. She offered a faint smile when she saw I had prepared a simple breakfast. Bacon and eggs with toast. Morning, Dad. Morning, honey. Come on, eat. We ate together in a comfortable silence. Not awkward, not heavy, just peace. After breakfast, I took out the small box with the locket, placing it on the table. This is for you. Cindy opened the box. Her eyes widened when she saw the silver locket she remembered from childhood, the one her mother always wore. This is Mom's locket. This locket is not your wedding gift, but a symbol that you are not alone, that you have a family, that you have a home to return to. Cindy cried again, but this time her tears were different. Not tears of sadness, but tears of relief. The tears of someone who had finally found her haven after being tossed by the storm. I fastened the locket around her neck. A simple silver locket that didn't have a high market value, but held priceless meaning. Thank you, Dad, for everything. You're welcome, honey. Now we start over. We rebuild slowly but surely. Cindy nodded. For the first time in 3 weeks, I saw a genuine smile on her face. Weeks turned into months. Cindy began looking for a job again. She took courses, improving her skills, rebuilding her shattered confidence. The process wasn't easy. There were days when she felt discouraged, but I was always there, reminding her that falling doesn't mean losing. One afternoon, she came home with a radiant face. Dad, I got a job. I smiled broadly. That's wonderful. Where? Financial consulting firm, analyst position. The salary's good. I can help you, Dad. I'm proud of you, honey. I am so proud. We celebrated with a simple dinner at home. Not luxurious, but full of warmth, full of love that didn't need to be proven with money. That night, before going to bed, I sat on the small balcony of the rental house, gazing at the starlit sky. A gentle breeze brushed my face. I took a deep breath, feeling a peace I hadn't felt in a long time. The best revenge is not when we retaliate with anger, not when we destroy someone with our own hands, but when we allow someone to reveal who they truly are in front of everyone. With their own lies collapsing the false palace they built, I didn't destroy Max with violence. I destroyed him with time, with patience, with facts that couldn't be refuted, and I let him fall in the middle of the party he made himself in front of hundreds of eyes that witnessed it. The most important thing was that I saved my daughter. I brought her home, and now we were rebuilding what had been broken, not with vengeance, but with a love that never faded. Even when rejected, even when banished, even when considered an enemy. Because that is a father's love. A love that asks for nothing in return. A love willing to become the temporary villain to save his child from a danger she didn't realize. And tonight, in a simple rental house in Staten Island, I slept peacefully. I slept soundly in the room next door to my daughter, safe in her own home.